Gary Lineker's spell at Barcelona is one of football's most fascinating what-if stories. Here we have an English forward, famed for his predatory instincts in the box, finding himself shipped off to the wing under one of football's greatest thinkers, Johan Cruyff. It sounds absurd in hindsight, but football, like any industry, is about timing, and Lineker's was, unfortunately, off.
As well as the football side of things, which went really well, particularly the first 2 seasons. Last season, not so much.
In 1986, Lineker arrived in Catalonia, fresh off a Golden Boot-winning World Cup performance.
Here's Tottenham's Gary Stevens, and here's Lineker, onside, 3-0!
Barcelona, under Terry Venables, already had a taste for imports from the English League. Scotland's Steve Archibald had led their line to La Liga glory in 1985. And with Mark Hughes also arriving, the plan was for a British revolution in the Camp Nou. The Catalans had seen the English striker dismantle defences across Europe, and with the signing of Lineker, the headlines wrote themselves, El Matador had arrived. His early performances, of course, only fueled the hype. A brace on his debut against Racing Santander had the Barcelona faithful on their feet, and his iconic hat-trick against Real Madrid cemented his hero status. But football is rarely as simple as goals and glory. Lineker's story at Barcelona is a reminder that clubs of Barcelona's stature don't just sign players, they sign stars. And stars come with egos, systems, and ambitions that go far beyond the individual.
Spanish football was very different to English football, particularly back then, when it was very intense English football, a lot of long ball football. Whereas the Spanish league was more cultural, more defined, more refined. And tactically it was different as well. And I had to learn to score goals in different ways. Back in the 80s, a lot of teams played very deep, and a lot of teams played with a libero, a sweeper. And one of my great assets was my speed, and I used to get behind defences and have one-on-ones with goalkeepers. But there wasn't that opportunity very often because of deep line defenders, so I had to learn other ways of scoring goals. So it was great for my education, but it was a different experience. The game was slower, you had to be more patient.
Enter Johan Cruyff, the man who would redefine Barcelona, not with a nod to British pragmatism, but with the Dutch philosophy of total football. The system, not the striker, was now king. It's hard not to sympathise with Lineker. He wasn't just played out of position, he was essentially exiled from the role that had defined him. Cruyff's vision, though, wasn't about a single player. It was about reshaping the entire team. Lineker, ever the poacher, was pushed to the wing, and despite his best efforts, he knew the writing was on the wall. It wasn't personal, just business. Cruyff was building his own Barcelona, and the English striker didn't fit the mould. Looking back, Lineker has always been philosophical about the situation. He never played the victim, but one can sense the frustration. His talents, being in the right place at the right time, were ideally suited to Cruyff's system, a system where a centre-forward stays centrally, makes the right runs, and buries chances. Yet, he wasn't given that opportunity. Instead, he found himself stuck on the wing, watching as Barcelona evolved without him. He wasn't bitter, just pragmatic. Football, like life, isn't always fair. What's remarkable, though, is how Lineker still respects Cruyff. Despite the professional disappointments, he recognises Cruyff's genius. It's not often you hear a player speak glowingly of a manager who effectively sidelined them, but this speaks to Lineker's understanding of the game. He saw the bigger picture, even if it came at the expense of his personal success. By the time he left Barcelona for Tottenham, Lineker's goal-scoring record, 42 goals in 103 La Liga appearances, remained impressive, especially considering how often he was played out of position. but the Barcelona chapter of his career will always feel like an opportunity missed. For a player who had the intelligence and instincts to thrive in a system like Cruyff's, the timing simply wasn't right. There's a sense of irony in the fact that Barcelona would later turn to strikers who mirrored Lineker's skill set, clinical finishers who lived in the box, waiting to pounce. Had Lineker arrived at the Camp Nou a few years later, under different circumstances, we might be talking about one of Barcelona's greatest ever forwards. But that's football, isn't it? Careers aren't just defined by talent, but by context. And for Lineker, Barcelona will always be the place where potential collided with circumstance.